The ship called Harmony's Edge moved slowly toward the giant space station. Inside the ship, 20 humans waited nervously. They were the first humans to ever visit the people. Nobody knew what to expect. Park stood near the window and watched the station grow bigger. She was a scientist who studied alien life. She was small, with kind eyes and a soft voice. Her job was to learn about and help the two species become friends. Next to her stood Captain. He was tall and calm. He never rushed. He never shouted. Other captains were famous for winning battles, was famous for solving problems without fighting. That was why he was chosen for this mission. "Are you nervous?" asked. Smiled a little. "Very nervous. They are predators. They come from a planet where everything tries to kill everything else. They are 8 feet tall with 4 arms and claws that can cut through metal. And we are sending you to shake hands with them." "If they have hands to shake," said. "I read that they have claws." The ship docked with a loud sound. Metal connected to metal. The doors opened slowly. Cold air rushed in. It smelled strange, like wet stone and something animal. The humans walked out in a single line. They wore their best uniforms. They carried no weapons. This was a peace mission. They were waiting for them. Had seen pictures. Pictures did not prepare her for the real thing. They were massive. Their bodies were covered in thick silver fur that shined under the station lights. They had 4 arms, 2 large and 2 smaller. Their faces were like a mix of wolf and bear, with long snouts and teeth that showed even when their mouths were closed. But their eyes were the most striking thing. The eyes glowed like melted copper, orange and gold and red all mixed together. The leader stepped forward. He was the biggest of them all. His fur had streaks of white that showed his age. A small device hung around his neck. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough, but the device translated his words into human language. "I am Ambassador, you are the humans. You are welcome here, but you must follow our rules. Break our rules and you will die. This is not a threat. This is simply truth." Bowed his head respectfully. "We understand. We are guests in your home. We will respect your ways." Studied him for a long moment. Then he turned and began walking. "Follow me. I will show you to your quarters. You will stay in the neutral zone. You will not enter areas without permission." The group followed. The station was huge and confusing. Hallways twisted and turned. Some passages were too tall for humans. Others were too wide. Everything was built for creatures much bigger than people. They passed many along the way. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. Some made low sounds in their throats. Could not tell if the sounds were curious or angry. Then they came to a large window. Stopped walking. She could not help it. Behind the thick glass was a room filled with soft materials and toys, and inside that room were 3 young cubs, children. They were smaller than the adults but still bigger than any human. Their fur was softer and fluffier. They played with each other, rolling and jumping and biting gently. One of them was smaller than the other 2. Its fur had patches of darker color mixed with the silver. "They are beautiful," whispered without thinking. Appeared beside her instantly. His copper eyes burned with warning. "Stop. Do not look at them. Do not speak to them. Do not even think about them." Looked away quickly. "I am sorry. I did not mean to offend." "You do not understand," said. His voice was harder now. "Our cubs are sacred. They are protected by laws older than your entire species. No outsider has ever been permitted near them. If you approach them, if you touch them, if you speak to them, you will be killed. There will be no trial. There will be no mercy. This is our oldest law." Stepped forward, putting himself slightly between and the ambassador. "We understand completely. None of us will go near your children. You have my word." Stared at him, then he stared at, "Your word means nothing to me yet. You are new, you are unknown. Words are easy, actions are truth." He turned back to the window and looked at the cubs with an expression that was almost soft. "They are our future, they are everything. A parent will destroy worlds to protect their young. Remember this." He walked away, the group followed, but looked back one more time, just for a second. The smallest cub had stopped playing. It was standing at the glass, pressing its nose against the window. Its copper eyes were fixed on. It watched her with something that looked like curiosity, maybe even loneliness. Felt something twist in her heart. She knew that look. She had seen it in shelters on Earth, in the eyes of animals who wanted connection, who wanted someone to see them. She turned away and kept walking. She followed the rules. She was a good guest. But she could not forget those eyes. 3 days passed. The negotiations began. Humans sat in large rooms and talked about trade, about peace, about sharing technology. Everything was formal and careful. Nobody smiled. Nobody relaxed. Did her job, she observed. She took notes. She learned. But every time she passed that window, she felt the small cub watching her. And every time she pretended not to notice. She did not know that everything was about to change. She did not know that fire and darkness were coming. She did not know that the cub behind the glass would soon need her more than anything in the universe. And she did not know that she would break every rule to answer that need. The explosion came without warning. Was sitting in the meeting room when the station shook. The lights went out. Red emergency lights came on. Alarms screamed through the hallways. The sound was so loud that covered her ears. "What is happening?" someone shouted. They were already moving. They were fast despite their size. Was giving orders in his own language, rough and sharp. His translator could not keep up. Grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the door. "We need to get to the ship, now." But they could not reach the ship. The hallways were chaos. Smoke filled the air. Ran past them, some carrying equipment, others carrying wounded. Metal groaned and screamed as parts of the station twisted and broke. They reached a large open area where many species had gathered. Emergency crews were working everywhere. Screens on the walls showed maps of the station. Large sections were red, meaning damage. Some sections were black, meaning no life support. "The eastern wing is gone," an officer reported too. "Atmospheric processors failed. Chain reaction. We have sealed the bulkheads, but hundreds are trapped." His copper eyes moved across the map. Then they stopped. His whole body went stiff. "The nursery," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "The cubs, where are the cubs?" The officer checked his data pad. His face changed. Even through alien features could see the horror. "They are in Section 7. Life support is failing. Oxygen will run out in 6 hours, maybe less. Then we cut through the walls. We break down the doors." "We cannot. The bulkheads are emergency grade. If we open them, we expose 3 connected sections to vacuum. 2,000 people will die. There must be another way." The officer hesitated. "There is a maintenance tunnel system. It connects to Section 7 through the old engineering paths, but—" He stopped. "But what?" demanded. "The tunnels are small. They were built for repair drones, not for— None of us can fit through them." Silence fell over the group. They looked at each other. Their cubs were dying and they could not reach them. They were too big. Their own bodies trapped them outside while their children suffocated in the dark. Stepped forward. Her heart was beating so fast she could feel it in her throat. "How small are the tunnels?" Everyone looked at her. They seemed confused. Eyes narrowed. "What are you asking?" "How small could a human fit through?" The officer checked his data. "Yes, a human would fit, but this is impossible. The cubs do not know you. They are scared and alone in the dark. When they see a stranger, they will attack on instinct. They are young, but they are still. They could kill you in seconds." "They are children," said. Her voice shook, but she did not stop. "They are scared children who are running out of air. I am not going to stand here and let them die alone." Grabbed her shoulder. "This is insane. You heard him. They will kill you." "Maybe, maybe not. This is not your responsibility. They are not your children." Looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but her jaw was set. I became a scientist because I love life, all life, not just human life. Those cubs did nothing wrong. They are going to die frightened and confused because nobody can reach them. I can reach them, so I am going. Stepped closer. He towered over her like a mountain. Human, you understand what you are offering. If you go, you will probably die. If you survive the tunnels, the cubs will probably kill you. And even if some miracle happens, even if you calm them, you will be trapped with them until we find another way in. The air will run out for you too. I understand. Why would you do this? They are not your kind. We have given you no reason to love us. We threatened you. We told you that you would die if you touched our young, and now you want to risk everything for them. Took a deep breath. Because they are children. Because I looked into that little one's eyes 3 days ago and saw loneliness. Because I could never live with myself if I did nothing. Because this is what humans do. We help, even when it is stupid, even when it costs us everything. Stared at her for a long time. Something changed in his copper eyes. Did not know what it was. Respect, maybe, or confusion, or something in between. Give her what she needs, he said finally. Oxygen tanks, medical supplies, lights, whatever she asks for. The moved fast. Within minutes had a small pack with emergency oxygen, water, basic medical tools, and 2 chemical lights. No weapons. She refused weapons. Walked with her to the tunnel entrance. It was a small hatch in the wall, barely big enough for her to crawl through. Beyond it was darkness. I should go with you, he said. The tunnels are too tight. Only one person can move through them at a time. And if something happens, someone needs to be here to find another way. He grabbed her hand. Come back, that is an order. She smiled even though she was terrified. I will try. She climbed into the tunnel. The hatch closed behind her. Darkness wrapped around her like a cold blanket. She turned on her light and began to crawl. The tunnel was tiny and endless. It twisted and turned. Sometimes she had to squeeze through spaces so tight she could barely breathe. The metal was cold against her hands and knees. Her light made shadows jump and dance on the walls. She crawled for what felt like hours. Her body hurt, her lungs burned, but she kept moving. She kept thinking about the little cub with the dark patches. She kept thinking about those lonely eyes. I am coming, she whispered into the darkness. Hold on, I am coming. Somewhere ahead, 3 cubs waited in the dark, their air slowly running out, not knowing that a small, soft, strange creature was crawling through the walls to find them. Fell out of the tunnel and landed hard on metal floor. For a moment she just lay there, breathing, trying to remember how to move. Every part of her body hurt. Her hands were bleeding from crawling. Her knees were bruised. But she had made it. She lifted her head and looked around. The room was dark except for the weak red glow of emergency lights. It was some kind of storage area connected to the nursery. The air was thin and cold. She could already feel the difference. Breathing was harder here. She checked her oxygen tank. She had maybe 5 hours of air, maybe less if she shared. A sound came from the next room. A low growl, then another, then a third, higher and smaller. His heart started pounding. She reached for her light but stopped. A bright light might scare them more. She picked up a chemical stick instead and cracked it. Soft green light filled the space around her. Slowly, very slowly, she moved toward the door that connected to the nursery. The door was stuck halfway open, damaged by the explosion. Squeezed through the gap and stepped into the room where the cubs were hiding. 3 pairs of copper eyes stared at her from the corner. The cubs were huddled together behind an overturned piece of furniture. The 2 bigger ones stood in front, teeth showing, claws out. They were growling so deeply that could feel the vibration in her chest. It hurt. It made her whole body want to run. She did not run. Behind the 2 big cubs, the smallest one peeked out, the one with dark patches in its silver fur, the one who had watched her through the glass. Its eyes were wide with fear. Hello, said softly. She knew they could not understand her words, but words were not really about meaning. Words were about tone, about feeling. She made her voice as gentle as she could. I know you are scared. I am scared too, but I am here to help. The biggest cub snapped its jaws at her. The sound was like two rocks crashing together, flinched but did not step back. That was very scary, she told the cub. You are very good at protecting your family. I can see that you are brave. She sat down on the floor, cross-legged, making herself as small as possible. She put the chemical light beside her so it glowed between them. The cubs did not attack, they watched. Started talking, not about anything important, not about rescue or danger or air running out. She talked about simple things, safe things. When I was small, she said, my grandmother had a garden. She grew vegetables and flowers. My favorite were the tomatoes. They were red and warm from the sun, and when you bit into them, the juice would run down your chin. The middle cub tilted its head, still growling but quieter now. Grandmother also had a cat. A very old cat was orange and fat and grumpy. She did not like anyone except my grandmother. But one day I sat very still in the garden for a very long time and came and sat on my lap. I was so happy I cried. The smallest cub moved a little. It pushed past the bigger ones just a step. Its nose was twitching, sniffing the air. Grandmother said that animals know when someone has a good heart. She said you cannot trick them with words. You can only show them with patience and kindness. Held out her hand, palm up, open, not grabbing, not reaching, just offering. The smallest cub crept forward. 1 step, 2 steps. The bigger cubs growled warnings, but they did not stop it. The cub's nose touched fingers, cold and wet. It sniffed her skin, her sleeve, her wrist. Then it looked up at her with those copper eyes and saw something change. The fear was still there, but something else was growing. Trust, maybe, or hope. There you are, whispered. I remember you. You watched me through the window. Were you lonely? I think you were. I think you wanted a friend. The cub made a small sound, not a growl, something softer. Then it pressed its head against her arm. Its eyes filled with tears. She gently, so gently, put her hand on the cub's head. The fur was impossibly soft. The cub collapsed against her side. It was big enough that it nearly knocked her over, but held on. She wrapped her arms around it and held it like she would hold any scared child. You are safe, she said. I am here. You are not alone anymore. The other 2 cubs watched. Minutes passed. The biggest one stopped growling first. It came closer, sniffed carefully, then lay down near her feet, not touching but close, guarding. The middle cub was last. It circled her 3 times before finally settling against her back. She could feel its breathing, fast at first, then slowly calming. Sat in the dark with 3 alien children pressed against her body. The air was getting thinner. The cold was getting worse. She did not know if rescue would come in time. But the cubs were not alone, and neither was she. She shared her oxygen. She took the mask and held it to each cub's nose, letting them breathe the clean air, then breathing some herself. It would make her supply run out faster. She did not care. When the temperature dropped, she pressed closer to their warm bodies. They pressed back. Their fur was thick and held heat well. Together, they were warmer than apart. She kept talking. She told them about Earth, about oceans and mountains and forests, about dogs and cats and birds, about her mother's songs and her father's cooking, about the first time she saw stars from space. The smallest cub fell asleep in her lap. Its head was heavy and warm, stroked its fur and sang quietly, an old song her mother used to sing, a song about being safe and loved and never alone. Hours passed, the air got thinner and thinner. Its head started to feel strange, light, fuzzy. She knew what that meant. The oxygen was running out. She checked her tank, empty. She was breathing the same bad air as the cubs now. Hold on, she whispered to them. Please hold on, help is coming. She did not know if that was true, but she said it anyway. She closed her eyes. The cubs were warm around her. Their breathing was slow and steady. They trusted her. They had put their lives in her small, soft hands. She would not let go, no matter what. The darkness grew deeper, felt herself slipping away. But she held onto the smallest cub and she kept singing, even when she could barely make sound. The last thing she felt before everything went black was a rough tongue licking her cheek. The smallest cub, even in the dark, even at the end, was trying to comfort her. The rescue team cut through the wall with machines that screamed and sparked. Fresh air rushed into the dead room like water breaking through a dam. Lights flooded the darkness. The first through the hole stopped so suddenly that the others crashed into him. In the middle of the room, surrounded by emergency supplies and chemical lights that had long gone dark, a human woman lay motionless. She was buried under 3 cubs. The cubs were awake, and they were angry. The biggest cub stood over the woman's body, teeth showing, claws ready. The middle cub crouched beside her, growling at anyone who came close. The smallest cub, the one with dark patches, had its head on her chest and refused to move. "The human is not breathing," someone said. "We need to get her to medical now." A medic stepped forward. The biggest cub roared. The sound shook the walls. The medic stepped back. "They will not let us near her," the medic said. "They think we are threats." Push through the crowd. His copper eyes found the woman beneath the cubs. She was pale, too pale, her lips were blue, she looked dead. "Cubs," he said in his own language, making his voice soft. "Little ones, we are here to help. You must let us help her." The smallest cub looked up at him. It made a sound that was almost like crying. Then it pressed its head against the woman's chest again and did not move. "They have bonded with her," someone whispered. "Look at them. They are protecting her. They think she is their mother." Felt something strange in his chest. He had been alive for many years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen this. 3 cubs, raised to fear all outsiders, were guarding a human with their lives. He stepped closer. The biggest cub growled at him, but he did not stop. He lowered himself to the ground, making himself smaller, less threatening. He reached out one of his smaller arms, palm up, just as the woman had done. "I know," he said gently. "I know you love her. I know she saved you, but she is hurt. If we do not help her, she will die. You do not want that. Let us save her." The biggest cub studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, it stepped aside. The medics rushed in. They put a mask on the woman's face and pumped air into her lungs. They put machines on her chest and shocked her heart. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing happened. The smallest cub started to wail. The sound was horrible. It was the sound of a child watching someone they loved die. "Again," ordered, "try again." The medic shocked her heart one more time. His body jumped, then she gasped, then she started breathing. The cubs went crazy with joy. They pushed past the medics and covered the woman with their bodies, licking her face, pressing against her, making sounds of pure happiness. Opened her eyes slowly. Everything was blurry and bright. She could not understand what was happening, but she felt warm fur all around her, and she heard sounds of relief, and she knew one thing for certain. They had made it. Somehow they had made it. She woke again in a medical room. White walls, soft bed, machines beeping quietly beside her. Was there, sitting in a chair, looking like he had not slept in days. When he saw her eyes open, he jumped up and grabbed her hand. "You are awake. Thank every star in the sky you are awake." "The cubs," said, her voice was rough and weak. "Are they safe?" Laughed, but there were tears in his eyes. "They are safe. They are more than safe. They are causing chaos." "What do you mean?" "They will not leave you. The station doctors tried to take them back to their families. They refused. The smallest one broke through a reinforced door to get back to you. Security cannot control them. Their parents cannot control them. They only calm down when they are near you." Tried to sit up. Her body screamed in protest, but she managed it. "Where are they now?" As if to answer her question, the door burst open. 3 cubs bounded into the room, nearly destroying a medical cart in the process. They saw and made sounds of pure joy. Within seconds, they were on her bed, around her bed, pressing against her from every direction. The smallest one climbed right onto her lap and put its head on her shoulder. It made a soft, purring sound that vibrated through her whole body. Hugged it tight, tears ran down her face. "I know," she whispered. "I missed you too." A elder entered the room. She was ancient, her fur more white than silver, her movements slow and careful. But her eyes were sharp and clear. The other bowed their heads when she passed. Leaned close to, "That is matriarch. She is the highest leader of the people. She arrived an hour ago from the home world." The matriarch stopped at the foot of his bed. She looked at the human woman. She looked at the cubs pressed against her. She was silent for a long time. "You touched our young," she said finally. Her voice was like old stones grinding together. "By our oldest laws, you should die for this crime." Met her eyes, she did not look away. "I know I would do it again." "Why, they are not your kind. They could have killed you. They almost did kill you. Why would you give your life for creatures so different from yourself?" Thought about the question. She thought about the dark tunnels, the thin air, the cold, the moment when the smallest cub pressed against her and fell asleep in her lap. "Because they were scared," she said simply. "Because they were children, because I could help, so I had to help. That is what my grandmother taught me. When you can help, you must help. It does not matter who needs you. It does not matter what they look like. Life is precious, all life." Stared at her for a long moment. Then she did something that made every in the room gasp. She bowed her head. "Our cubs have chosen you," the matriarch said. "This has not happened in 12,000 years. We do not understand you, human. You are small and soft and breakable. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. By all logic, you should be prey. And yet you walked into darkness for children that were not yours. You almost died for them, and now they love you with all their hearts." She raised her head and looked at with something that might have been respect. "The bond is sacred, it cannot be undone. From this day forward you are family, you are one of us, our enemies are your enemies, our home is your home, and these cubs," she gestured at the 3 young ones pressed against, "they are yours. For the rest of your life they will be yours." Looked down at the smallest cub in her lap. It looked back at her with copper eyes full of love. "What is your name?" she asked it softly. The matriarch answered, "That one is called, it means unexpected gift." Smiled and stroked soft fur. "Hello, I think I am stuck with you." Purred louder and pressed closer, and held on tight, and everything was different now, and nothing would ever be the same. Years passed, the galaxy changed. The incident at Station Vila 9 became famous. Every species heard the story. A small human woman crawling through dark tunnels to save alien children. 3 cubs refusing to leave her side. An ancient law broken, not by violence but by love. At first the other species did not know what to think. Humans were new to the galaxy. They were young and strange and confusing. They were soft creatures from a small blue planet, not warriors or conquerors. Most aliens had ignored them. They did not ignore them anymore. The Alliance changed everything. The most feared predators in the galaxy stood beside humanity and called them family. This made others pay attention. This made others ask questions. Why did they trust them? Why did the cubs bond with the human woman? What was special about these small, strange creatures? Slowly, stories started to spread. Not just the story of, but other stories. Stories of human doctors working in alien hospitals, helping species they had never met. Stories of human rescue teams flying into danger zones because someone, anyone, needed help. Stories of human scientists sharing knowledge freely, wanting nothing in return except friendship. One story became famous. A transport ship carrying 100 refugees broke down in empty space. No rescue ships could reach them in time, but a human cargo vessel was nearby. The humans had no room. They were already carrying a full load. It did not matter. They threw out half their cargo, packed the refugees in tight, and flew for 3 days without rest to bring them to safety. When asked why they did it, the human captain looked confused by the question. They needed help, he said. We were there. What else were we supposed to do? This was what confused the galaxy most. Humans did not help because of treaties or trade or political gain. They helped because helping was what they did. They saw suffering and moved toward it, not away from it. They saw strangers and treated them like friends. They saw children and protected them, no matter whose children they were. Some species called them foolish, some called them dangerous, some called them saints. They called them brothers. Became something like a legend. She did not want to be famous. She just wanted to do her work and raise her strange family. But the galaxy would not let her hide. The 3 cubs grew into adults. They were massive, powerful warriors with claws that could cut through starship hulls and teeth that could crush bones. They served in the military with honor. They won battles that seemed impossible. They were feared by enemies and respected by allies. And they still came home, too. No matter how far they traveled, no matter how long they were gone, they always came back. The smallest cub who had become a great warrior still put his head in its lap when they were together. The bigger cubs and Senna still pressed against her for comfort after hard missions. They called her mother, a word that had no translation in human language. It meant something between guardian and heart friend and the one who stayed in the dark. Other species came to visit, wanting to understand. Diplomats and scientists and philosophers traveled across the galaxy to meet the woman who had changed everything. She welcomed them all with tea and simple food and honest conversation. "How did you do it?" they asked. "How did you make them trust you?" "I did not make them do anything," always answered. "I just sat with them in the dark. I did not try to control them or trick them. I just loved them. That was all." "But they could have killed you." "Yes, but they did not. Because even a scared child knows the difference between a threat and a friend, even across species, even across stars. Love is not complicated. We make it complicated because we are afraid. But if you can let go of fear, even for a moment, you can connect with anyone." Some understood, some did not. It did not matter. The change had already happened. 20 years after Vela 9, Ambassador was asked by a young diplomat why the trusted humans so completely. The old thought for a long time before answering. "We warned them not to go near our cubs," he said. "We told them they would die. We told them our young were sacred and protected by ancient law. And one small woman looked at all our warnings, all our threats, all our power, and she said, 'They are children. I am going.' She crawled through darkness and almost died because 3 young ones she had never met were scared and alone. We thought we were the apex predators. We were wrong. Humans do not fight to dominate. They fight to protect." And that is something far more frightening. "Frightening?" the young diplomat asked. "Why frightening?" Looked out a window at the stars. Because you cannot defeat an enemy who does not want to win. You cannot scare someone who has already accepted death. And you cannot stop a species who will throw themselves into fire not for power or treasure or glory, but simply because someone needed help. We can understand conquest. We can understand war. We cannot understand a creature who would die for a stranger's child. That kind of love has no limits. And something with no limits cannot be fought. On a colony world called New Haven, an old woman sat in a garden full of flowers. Her hair was white now. Her hands were thin and spotted with age, but her eyes were still kind, still bright. 3 massive creatures lay around her. His dark patches now streaked with had his head in her lap as always, and Senna rested nearby, close enough to touch. Children played in the garden. Human children and cubs together, running and laughing and tumbling over each other just like the cubs had done so many years ago behind that glass window. A young human girl, maybe 6 years old, ran up to, "Grandmother, tell us the story again, the story about the dark tunnels and the cubs." Smiled and stroked fur. He purred, the sound rumbling through the garden like gentle thunder. Again, I have told that story 1,000 times. Please, the cubs want to hear it too. Looked at the younglings who had gathered around. They watched her with copper eyes, waiting. All right, she said, but you must sit still and listen. The children sat, the cubs sat, even the adult raised their heads to listen. Began. A long time ago, on a station far away, a woman heard that 3 children were trapped in the dark. Everyone told her not to go. They said it was too dangerous. They said the children were too different. They said she would die. She paused, pressed his nose against her hand. But she went anyway, because they were children, because they were scared, because when someone needs help, you help them, no matter how different they are, no matter how afraid you are. That is what it means to have a good heart. The children listened. The cubs listened. And somewhere across the galaxy, other species heard the story too, and wondered at these strange, soft creatures called humans who refused to leave anyone alone in the dark. And that was how humanity found its place among the stars, not through war or power or fear, but through love. Simple, stubborn, unreasonable love. Some called them weak for it, some called them foolish. The universe learned otherwise.